Hello everybody and welcome to a new video today. So today I want to keep talking about HIMS. I've been talking about HIMS a lot, but I really think this is a good company. So I just want to take a minute to analyze what I see as their competitive advantages, what I see as their main three competitive advantages, and why I'm investing in the stock. This is not investment advice, just entertainment. So what are moats, right? Moats are things that prevent competition from coming in. And it's very important to look at modes for hymns because there's a lot of competition. And that may be actually the only threat that I could see for hymns. And so I'm trying to find competitive advantages for hymns. And there are a few that I want to discuss, which I think is going to protect them from the competition. So the first competitive advantage for him is that they have a best cost approach. And so I don't mean to take you back to business school if you've been, but what is a best cost approach, right? It's a mix between the best service and the lowest cost. So it's the best service at the lowest cost. So a good example would be Southwest Airlines, for example. It's a good example of best cost. It's a low fare airline, but you also get all of the perks and all of the things that you don't get in any other airline. You get 2 checked bags, you get no change fees, you get a credit when you cancel, you don't forfeit your fare. There's a bunch of things that make Southwest both. Cirque du Soleil is another one, which is another type of best cost business, which kind of revolutionized the Broadway entertainment. It's a really good book. I recommend Blue Ocean Strategy. But HIMS follows the idea of a best cost. So what is a best cost? Well, that's the most powerful of all business strategies. There are no business strategies that are better than best cost. Business strategies historically are things like differentiation, like, oh, I'm super differentiated, but I'm more expensive. Like that Starbucks. Starbucks is super differentiated, but more expensive. You have low cost leadership, or you're a low cost provider or low cost leader, like in the airline business, it would be Spirit. Nobody flies Spirit because they accept a high quality service. They fly Spirit because it's the cheapest. They only compete on cheapness. You have niche businesses. That's the reason why niche businesses exist. And then for hims and hers, they are actually best cost. They are like the Facebook or the Gmail or the Southwest airline of that field, I believe. And that's best cost is a very subtle strategy. It's a very because it never means being the absolute cheapest. That's not what best cost means. What best cost means is that you have both a highly differentiated service while remaining very inexpensive. So Hims, for example, charges about $3 for one ED pill, and you may find someone online that I don't know charges you like $2.10, and they would advertise and say, "Oh, cheaper than Hims." Well, that's not the point. The point is that you buy from Hims not only because they are cheap enough or inexpensive enough, very, very inexpensive, but they also have that extra service that creates so much value. There is a wide gap between the service provided and between the cost. This gap is a value creation. So HIMS is all about providing more value while costing significantly. And when you have this type of business, people typically tend to go there. Because these businesses tend to outperform because they're the best of both worlds. The idiom for this in real life is the best bang for your buck. Essentially, you're getting the best bang for your buck. So go with HIMS. That's the idiom in real life. So why are they best cost? Well, first of all, they have low cost, right? The lowest cost, and they have the best service. So why do they have the best service? Well, they have the best service for several reasons, which makes them so innovative. For example, it's on-demand doctors, right? So you don't have to wait for months like in the legacy system. It's an app. You don't have to call. The legacy system is mostly calling people, right? App interface and quasi instant, right? You get matched to a doctor and you have an access to a doctor. You may have to wait 24 hours, but as the firm grows, you're not going to have to wait less and less. That's one example of how they have a better service. Why else do they have a better service, I believe? You don't have to deal with your health insurance. You don't have to deal with getting the visit reimbursed by your health insurance on the one hand, and B, the drugs reimbursed by your other health insurance. And oftentimes in the US, whatever insurance your job provides that pays for your drugs is going to be different than the insurance that pays for your doctor. So it is a complete mess. The whole pharmacy system versus doctor system. And here's the worst thing: for little things, for little treatments like what HIMSS offers, I believe HIMSS doesn't focus on major health issues. They only focus on more minor health issues. I mean, really anything they do is more minor. Like hair loss is a minor health issue. It's not a big deal, not that big of a deal, but it's meaningful to whoever is facing that. Um, so these treatments are often subject to high copays in the real world. So HIMSS is able to provide treatment for these minor issues for cheaper than what the copay alone would be. Right? And oftentimes also, a lot of the products that HIMSS cover are not even covered by your health insurance. Like acne, for example, or hair loss. These are very rarely covered. Sometimes ED is not covered. And third, it's better. Why? Because you save a lot of time. You don't have to deal with customer service at insurance. You don't have to make a bunch of phone calls. You don't have to have surprise bills in the mail from the doctor because you thought the insurance covered it, but then the insurance didn't. And then you get a surprised bill with a surprised amount. You don't have any of these issues. You know exactly what you pay. You have very, very clear pricing. It is really like Amazon. It is like an Amazon where it is I mean, many businesses try to use the Amazon playbook, but it's really a simple one-click system where you click a button and you get a service, and you don't have to go through all of the legacy way. And the legacy way is a way where you really have to be your own advocate in the legacy way. As you travel your way through the health system, you really have to be an advocate for yourself. When you use an app like HIMSS, the app can be the advocate for you and do all of these things for you and provide you the services. So I believe that's one of the reasons why they have a better approach to healthcare, a much better approach to healthcare. All right, let me move on. Why are they lowest cost? Well, this is the classics, right? It's pretty obvious, this one, so I'm going to go really quickly. But they have mostly automated pharmacies, pharmacy warehouses in Phoenix and Columbus where they ship the products. The more they scale, the more they buy generics in bulk, and so they can lower the cost, right? If they're a bigger player in the space, they're going to have a lowest cost on the generics. That's your economies of scale. So that's a classic. Shipping obviously is much cheaper than operating a network of pharmacies. And from a customer standpoint, you save time because you don't have to do all of these phone calls and coordination, and you save money because you don't have to get out of the house. So these are kind of your classic lower cost, a lower cost aspect that make HIMSS helpful. I think what's important to ask as a question, and I'll type it right here, is that do you need these prescriptions in 2-day shipping? And I think that's an important point because, and I think the answer to that is no. Because one of the big threats that we have to any type of online pharmacies is Amazon. Amazon always comes with its online pharmacy, and the question is, when you have when you have a subscription, you really don't care about 2-day shipping. Emergency shipping is not as important for the type of recurring issues that HIMSS and HERS is addressing for now. For some issues, it may be important to have it like overnight. And in that case, HIMSS and HERS would have to compete by paying for expedited shipping. But for your typical subscription, it's not as important to have 2-day shipping. So I don't want to undermine the moat that Amazon would have with instantaneous shipping, but I don't think it's as important as consumer products for this one. Drugs you can pre-schedule and pre-ship on a subscription. So moving on. So Mode number two. What is the second mode? Well, the second mode that I believe that hims and hers have is the network effects. Granted, they are indirect network effects. They're not like the telephone, which is it's a direct network effect. The more people join the telephone network, the more the telephone valuables. It's a little bit indirect, but it is nonetheless here. And it's a two-sided network effect as well because they both use data and they both use users to attract medical professionals. And this is a classic chart that you may have seen everywhere. So as more users are on the platform, right, as more users join hims and hers, two things happen. You get more medical professionals to join because medical professionals who provide these services, they want to have a lot of business. And so it's kind of like Uber and Lyft. Why are drivers signing up for Uber? Because there's a lot of customers on Uber. So the same way here. The more users join hims and hers, the more they're going to have practitioners, medical practitioners join hims and hers. It's only natural. And then, and this is true for most businesses that have a platform model, the more data you get, and this data can be used for recommendations. Right? They're going to have all of these customers' data. They're going to know what works, what doesn't work. They're going to be able to use this data to make better recommendations, to give advice. So both the mix of more medical professionals on the apps and more data on the apps means that you have a better value proposition. And if you have a better value proposition, you're going to get more users, etc., etc. And I want to quickly say related, but not a network effect, but it's related. The more users you have, and the more the value proposition, the more you're going to have word of mouth, the online kind. And these apps, for example, the Android app was launched in early 2022, and it's got amazing reviews. These apps are pretty recent for him and hers, and if you see, they're already ranking number 29 on HIMSS in the medical field. Keep in mind they're competing with health system, with regional health system, with all of their local apps. So this is pretty impressive that they're ranking this high, and the ranking is increasing and getting better. So they have online word of mouth going on. And who knows, perhaps also traditional face-to-face word of mouth. So network effects, I think network effects, although they are weaker right now, I think over time network effects will be a big moat, a big competitive advantage for hims and hers. Moat number three is the brand. And the brand is also typically seen as a weaker moat. It is a weaker moat to have a brand. It's not the biggest moat of them all, but it's still a moat. It's kind of one of these classic 1970s moats, right? Brand is everything. It's one of these classic ones. So why do I think they have a shot at building a great moat, a great brand? Well, I believe we have a chance at building a great brand because right now they're expanding their advertising while most of them are restricting ad spend. So we're in a recession. Most people are restricting their ad spend and they're increasing. And also ads get cheaper during a recession. So this is good for them. They're getting much more exposure. There are very few national brands in healthcare. They're typically limited to a local health system or to a location, right? That's typically how it is. For example, where I'm at, it's Baylor Scott and White. Baylor Scott and White is everywhere. But if you go to another part of the country, it's gonna be your local health system that has notoriety. The brands typically tend to not move away from the region that you're in. Okay, it's crazy. And then last one is, I think hims and hers, they must have good classic, quote unquote, classic marketing people because they're using the classic national brand building strategy that so many brands have used successfully, which is the idea that you enter mass advertising. So if you want to create a national brand, you have to engage in high barrier to entry advertising. And so if you wonder, how did all of these brands like Procter and Gamble's brands, like Tide or Gillette. How did all these brands get built? Well, they got built through mass advertising. You had a tremendous moat because it cost millions and millions and millions to do these campaigns. And there's only a few TV channels, at least back then, there was only a few TV channels on which you could advertise. And so only the companies that had enough money to pay for mass market marketing, only those could create those national brands. And I think hims and hers, not compared to the to the big guys in the field, but compared to their competition, like Roman, for example, they have more capital, and they can use things. They can use this capital to really capitalize on their position of strength and actually get some level of mass advertising going on. And I think this is very clever. For example, they've started putting ads during football games for him, and when I think about the football demographic, I mean, it's right there, right? You have a lot of guys in their 40s who could use hymns. So it's a very good idea. For hers, but it's a newer product. Hers, they're launching it. They're advertising on shows that are popular among women on Hulu. Hulu is very popular. They have a lot of shows, and they're just advertising on shows that are popular to women. Again, that's a very, very smart mass market strategy, right? We're moving away from advertising on Facebook, right? Anybody can advertise on Facebook with as little money as you can. Hims and hers is moving into kind of the big guys category, quote unquote, where few people can pay for so much advertising. And lastly, and I'll finish with this, they hired a celebrity spokesperson, and I listened to the latest conference call. Analysts were pretty excited about that. But we don't know who it is, so it's to be announced in early 23. But again, having a famous celebrity support you is part of a brand building effort. So they are engaging in brand building, and they may become a legitimate brand. I think it's a good strategy. So let me know, perhaps in the comments, if you think Hims and Hers is a brand. But I think they're on their way to becoming a brand, and so this is a big deal. Anyways, not investment advice. This was just entertainment. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your support. Thank you for liking. Thank you for subscribing. And if you can follow me on Twitter at @BeatTheDenominator, I appreciate it. I post a lot on there, many threads and comments and topics related to my new videos. Thank you so much. Really appreciate if you can subscribe. Thank you and have a great day.